I'm still recording. All right. Okay, so yeah. All right. Okay, but again, you can actually invert a rate and you can actually end up with another rate. So that's what I'm doing here. We took the speed, we took the 25 miles per hour, and what we did was we inverted it. You know, it's inverting a fraction. You get another rate. I mean, this is not a unit rate anymore. It's still a rate, though. So we have that. Okay, so now those are examples of rates. Let's actually try and solve some problems involving rates. For instance, suppose we can drive 25 miles per hour, okay? So, you know, we're in a car and we're driving 25 miles per hour. We want to know how far we can travel if we drive for 5 hours. Of course, we're assuming the speed is not changing, right? This is the speed of the car. So somehow we're not slowing down or speeding up or whatever. Okay, so you could solve this using the factor label method. I think there you would actually just multiply, but we're going to solve it using proportions. Now, that 25 miles per hour, okay, there we go. So, okay, so first remember, we want to know how far we're traveling, right? Okay, we don't know that. That's our unknown. That's what I'm calling x. So we're going to let x be the distance that we're traveling for 5 hours. And we want to figure out, okay, what exactly is x? That's what we want to figure out. Okay, that's really what we want to know. Okay, but again, 25 miles per hour, right? That rate has to do with the speed of the car. And the x over 5, x miles, that's how far we're going, over 5 hours. Well, this also is the rate that gives us the speed of a car, right? I mean, we don't know what x is, but x miles over 5 hours, that's still the speed that we're going at. That's still the rate that deals with how fast we're driving. Well, if those two rates tell us the same thing, they should be equal. So altogether, we have two rates. Okay, so they have to be equal because they both describe the speed at which we're driving. But now the question is, how do we get x? We're going to have to do that cross product, cross multiplying is what we're going to do. So we're going to cross multiply. Now, I took the units away. You know, I mean, if you don't do that, I don't think it's terrible, but I did. I mean, the units actually do cancel anyway, but I just removed them. But hopefully now it's a little bit easier to see that, yeah, you're going to cross multiply. Doing so, we get 25 times 5 is equal to x times 1. Of course, x times 1 is just x, right? 25 times 5, 25 times 5, that's 125. So in other words, we get 125 equals x, which I just rewrote this way. I mean, I wouldn't take points off if you left x on the right side, the unknown on the right side. But really, it's better to have it on the left side. Okay, but if you wrote 125 equals x, that's fine. But that's what we get, though. So what we have then, if we drive for 5 hours, we drive a distance of 125 miles. Okay. And again, we could have solved this using the factor label method. I mean, here, of course, it's a little longer, but I'm thinking people here might understand this more. I think this is easier to understand, but I'm not sure. I hope it is. All right, so that's one example. So I want to do, oh wait, we just did that, didn't we? Oh, we just did that. Here we go. Sorry about that. I thought I deleted the slide, but I didn't. Here we go. Okay. All right. Anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, so now here's another example. Now, this is the actual example that we did yesterday. Okay. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve it using proportions. Okay. Okay, so now the first thing we're going to do, although if we're using proportions, really step one is not really necessary, but I guess it's just fun. We want to express that as a unit rate. And we did that already, actually. That was correct. In other words, we have 300 miles, right? The car is driving, we're driving now 300 miles, and we're able to drive on a tank of 20 gallons, right? 300 miles, 20 gallons. So our rate is this quotient, 300 miles over 20 gallons. But again, we want that to be a unit rate. So as we saw yesterday, what that means is this 20, we want to basically make that into 1. Now, how do we do that? Well, if we can get a 20 on top, then we can factor. And it turns out you can. Namely, 300 can be written as, factored as 15 times 20. So what happens? The 20s cancel. And because they cancel, we get this. 15 miles per gallon. Again, I put the 1 here. If I didn't, and it said just 15 miles per gallon, it would be understood to be 1. Now that was yesterday, number 1. Now we're going to do number 2. So this is the same example, but I'm going to do number 2 now. How far can I drive on 35 gallons? Okay. So again, we want to get the number of miles that we can drive, right? That's what 2 is asking for. We have 35 gallons of gasoline, okay, you know, in the tank or whatever. We want to know at this rate, given in the problem, how far can we drive on 35 gallons? Well, we're going to use a proportion, right? What's on the left here, this was on the previous slide. This was our rate. And it's just like the first example we did today. You know, we're driving X miles. X is actually our unknown. Okay. X is actually our